Hello, welcome into this week's edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up presented by Alabama Power. I'm John McAfoose, very happy today to be joined by our Deputy Director of Athletics for Student-Athlete Well-Being and our SWA, Michelle Durban. Michelle, I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you've been here now for 17 plus years. You wear a lot of different hats for Samford Athletics, do a lot of work behind the scenes. Tell us a little bit about some of the key areas that you focus on.
I have sport oversight of 10 of our sports. So I've got the 6 sports with Rod Tiffin, so track and field and cross country. And then I have women's basketball, soccer, volleyball, and golf. So I've got all of those fine coaches that answer into me, as well as any of our student-athlete well-being, so compliance, academics, and of course our sports performance, which we are dealing with quite a lot right now.
And when you came here, you actually started off as the volleyball head coach and then you transitioned into an administrative role. Was that something that you wanted to do or you thought might happen, or is it something that just kind of unfolded that way?
I think that down the road I thought it might happen. It would be more of a 10 to 15 year plan once I was finished with the coaching bug, but I took over the SWA role 2 years into my coaching duties, and then had to kind of make a decision when we moved to the SOCON is really what kind of drew the line in the sand, and I went ahead and went to the administrative route.
How much did having that coaching experience help on the administrative side? Because obviously you still work with student athletes a lot.
Yeah. I think it helps a lot when dealing with the coaches for sure, because they know that I've been there, done that from their side of things. And then being a former student athlete, but also being a coach, I can kind of talk to some of our student athletes about issues that they might be having. And, you know, I think that kind of gives me a unique perspective in the administrative side of things.
You're also on the Division I Volleyball Committee. You've been on there this is your 4th year.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how that opportunity came about, what some of your obligations are for that.
Well, you're nominated by your conference. So the SOCON, you know, with my background in coaching, definitely has, you know, kept putting me up for it. There's only 10 people from D1 that are put on it. So it's a process just to get on it. Last year I was the D1 chair. Thankfully I'm not this year, so I'm not having to answer quite as many questions, especially with the pandemic. But, you know, so it's been a unique experience, especially with what we're dealing with right now and trying to figure out how the tournaments will run in the spring.
Yes, speaking of that, that's kind of what my follow-up question was going to be. What might a spring schedule look like?
So right now we have 4 conferences in the country that are playing. So we've got Sun Belt, ACC, Big 12, and the SEC that will start shortly. And then we have some schools that are doing one-offs. We are still watching volleyball right now and trying to hopefully remember this come selection weekend in April, which will be Easter weekend. And we are still trying to figure out exactly if it'll be a bubble, if it'll look similar to what we've done in the past, exactly what the NCAA will come up with. So all we know right now is there will only be 48 teams instead of the normal 64.
I know you mentioned this briefly at the beginning, but COVID's really taking up pretty much all of your time now. You are overseeing sports performance. I know you're probably in meetings all the time trying to figure out what's happening with that. Where is Samford at right now, COVID-wise, as an athletic department, and what do maybe the next few months hold?
I think right now we've seen a little bit of a spike, but I mean, I think the whole university has seen a spike here. It's a little roller coaster-esque. 1 week it's really good, and then the next week we're like, where'd all these people come from? So I think for the majority of it, our student athletes understand that it's definitely out there, and you know, they've done a good job for the most part of wearing their mask and doing what we've been asking. But you know, they're in classes, they're college students, they live together. So of course, if you have one, then normally that takes out multiples, and student athletes live together. So you know, it's difficult just to pinpoint why you see an influx or why it decreases.
Having been here for 17 plus years, what are some of maybe the biggest changes you've seen in the athletic department?
Biggest changes are the facilities, because when I first got here, you know, our coaches were kind of all over the place. There wasn't a centralized location, and I think that really helps our department and, you know, kind of the culture where everybody's in, for the most part, in one building, or they're in here enough. Versus when I first got here, it was, I mean, we had the annex, we had people that didn't have offices. So I think that's a big plus for us. But I just think that, moving to the SoCon from the OVC helped because we had a lot of like institutions. But also just the success that we've had. I mean, we've won. I've lost count of how many conference championships. But Carissa Nelson winning a national championship. We've had success in the NCAA baseball tournament. So I just think that overall our student athletes have improved. But I think that also helps with our facility improvement.
Michelle, I really appreciate your time. Hopefully, we're back to playing sports soon.
All right. Thank you for having me.
That's Deputy Director of Athletics for Student-Athlete Well-Being and SWA, Michelle Durban. I'm John McAfee. That'll do it for this edition of the Samford Sports Wrap-Up presented by Alabama Power.